Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing you talked about was just the diverse of these agencies and how diverse these agencies are, from treasury to health, education, and more, with all the different missions and processes that they're looking for. Um, is there another example of a public sector project where this kind of a complexity was handled successfully? And what lessons could this project maybe take from that project?
Yeah, I mean, so at third stage, we do quite a bit of government work. It's not all we do. We do mostly private sector work, but we do have quite a few client engagements in the government and public sector. But most of that is going to be at the city level. So in the U.S., for example, you've got federal, and I know you know this, Darren, but this is more for our international audience that may not fully understand how the U.S. government is structured. But you've got federal, which is like the nationwide government, and then you've got the state governments, and then you've got the city governments. So city governments are the smaller of the three tiers, if you will, and those organizations, we've seen a lot of success in that space. We've actually been pretty gun shy about moving too far into state and especially federal projects because of the complexity and the risk and just some of the, honestly, the bad decision making that happens at that level. So we haven't gotten too entrenched in that space yet. I think there's a lot of value we can provide, especially in terms of quality assurance and helping manage some of these big system integrators. But the big federal bureaucracies and the big private and public sector organizations out there tend to have this bias towards these big consulting firms, and they seem to think that they're going to solve all the world's problems when in fact they won't. And oftentimes, more often than not, they're making the problems worse. So to answer your question, yes, I've seen successes, but it's been at the smaller, I'd say the city level or the smaller government entity level. Internationally, when we work with government entities outside the U.S., we've been more successful and seen more success at the smaller level. I'm not saying the federal and the big, massive, complex organizations like the entire UK government, for example, I'm not saying they can't be successful, but the odds of them succeeding are a lot lower than if any one of those 20 agencies would just go off on their own and do their own implementation. Which honestly, that might be a better answer for them. I'm not involved with the UK federal or the UK government, but I would suspect that if you want to have a higher chance of success, you would probably, even if it meant some redundant cost, you'd probably have less risk to just implement different systems and different projects at each of those agency levels rather than trying to do it across the entire thing. Because government entities, let's be honest, government entities are very slow to change. In many cases, they can't change for whatever reason because of politics and regulatory stuff. So to put in one common platform that automates and standardizes, creates a common business process across all those agencies, I just don't think that's realistic.
Right. That was actually kind of what my next question was, in a way of, do you think Workday was the right choice for this project, or maybe Workday is only right for a few different agencies within the government, and maybe a different system would fit better. So I guess you kind of answered that question more, but do you think there's another platform that potentially would fit better, I guess?
Yeah, I don't even know that it's an issue with Workday. Even if, let's just say, Workday were the right answer. Let's just say it's a better answer than anything else that's out there. Let's just assume that's true. I'm not saying it is, but let's just say that's true. If that's true, I would still say you might be better off spinning up 20 different Workday implementations across the UK government than you would be trying to do one big, massive Workday implementation. And I know that sounds counterintuitive and it sounds wasteful and it sounds redundant. And why would you do that when you can have one system, one instance of that system doing everything? I just don't think it's realistic I mean, the UK government is not a small entity. There's a lot of people, a lot of diverse functions and processes. It just, even if Workday can handle everything they need, implementing it in a way that's common across all those different agencies, I just don't think is the right strategy. I have trouble seeing how that makes sense or how that could possibly be successful or a sound strategy long term.
Yeah, and I guess a question off of that, do you think it's going to be more costly for them to try and do all of this across the board, rather than would it cost more money up front maybe to separate it out? What do you think is the reasoning for not separating it out that they're having?
I think it's because it sounds good in theory. And I think this, and I don't know this for a fact, so this is pure speculation. So if you work for Workday's legal counsel, don't sue me. But when I speculate on this, would be that Workday and whoever sold them, Workday probably sold them on this vision that our product can give you standard processes, which is probably, it is true. Workday can absolutely do what the UK government wants to do. So I'm not questioning Workday actually at all in this. I'm not saying Workday is perfect either, but I'm not questioning Workday, but I'm just questioning whether or not the government of the UK recognizes the fact that yes, Workday potentially sold them this vision. Yes, Workday can probably deliver to that vision. But my big question, I'd say 99% of my question is, can the government handle that? And can the government really adapt to one rollout of Workday? And and it doesn't matter this Workday. You could put any product name in there and I'd have the same response. I just don't think that they can. I just don't see how politically and organizationally and in terms of complexity, I just don't see how they possibly could do that.